Hi, everybody. Welcome to my Ask Me Anything. I love doing these, right? This is like my favorite part about being a YouTube person. We're going to go right into it. Anyone who is a YouTube member, that's like the paid thing, or a Patreon subscriber is guaranteed to have their question answered. I got some of those ahead of time. I'm guaranteed to hit those, but I am going to try to hit everybody's question. So feel free to get in the comments and submit a question. I'll probably try to get to it. Also, I put a lot of the frequently asked questions in the video description, so you could look there if you want. And if I ignore your question, it might be because it's one of the frequently asked. Okay. All right, let's go right in. We're just going to hit these questions. I love this. You ready? Here's number one. Here we go. Let me get it on the screen. Question number one. Oh, this is funny. Hold on. I'm going to skip question number one to put this on the Kiss Cam from Catman Jimbo. How to be advanced. 5 Ask Me Anything strategies. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, all right, let's do this one first. Let me see if I can come up with 5 strategies for doing Ask Me Anythings at an advanced level. Number one is don't be afraid to judge the question. I'm not afraid to judge the question. I'll judge the question harshly. I have no problem with that. I'll address it. I'll tell you why I'm judging your question. But I'm not afraid to. I'm not afraid to say like this question is low in the hierarchy of questions. I'm a free speech warrior in that sense. Even though it is Ask Me Anything, here's the rules. You ready? You can ask me anything and I can reply with anything. That's the whole show. All right. Sometimes I'll get a question and I'll judge it and I'll say like, here's the issues with this question, and people will be like, well, it's called Ask Me Anything. That's not the slam dunk that you think it is. You can ask me anything and I can answer with anything. It's the whole program. All right, that's pro tip number one. How many of these I got to do? 5? Part of the reason why it takes me a long time to make a how to be advanced video is that 5 is a lot. That's pro tip number 2 for anyone out there thinking about starting a YouTube channel or being like a YouTube pedal guy. 5 is a very high number. 5 pro tips is a lot of pro tips. You know what I mean? Coming up with one of my fucking little pro tips in a video is an accomplishment. I come up with one. I'm not even close to being done yet. That's how I feel right now. Coming up with 5 pro tips for Ask Me Anything. What else? I would say trying to get questions ahead of time is good. I do put some thought into it, especially I appreciate that you guys will ask me some philosophical shit. I'm aware of that and I respect it, so asking for questions ahead of time and then like being able to line up 1 or 2 good answers, that can be good. It can be nice to go into an Ask Me Anything knowing that you got a good one in your back pocket. All right, that's number 2. Number 3 is let's see if I can take this a little more seriously. I did do stand-up for a while. I think that's good practice for being able to think on your feet and being able to like try to be funny and ask during an Ask Me Anything, being able to like do crowd work or whatever. Some people do Ask Me Anythings where all they're doing is they're only doing questions they got ahead of time. They get the questions and then they push record and all they're doing is going through the questions. They prepare the whole thing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Sean Carroll, he's the author and a podcast guy that I like. His Ask Me Anythings are like that. That guy's good. But I don't do that. I love the questions that come in during the thing and the comments that come in during the thing. I started the show with the comment that came in during the thing from Catman Jimbo. So one pro tip for being able to hang with that and not shit your pants, I do feel like sometimes the time I spent doing stand-up helped with that. All right, this is 3 pro tips I got to do. I got to do 5. All right, pro tip number 4 is like, if you're going to answer a question, I would say take it seriously. If you're not going to answer a question, okay, even I don't answer everything. Like there'll be times when I'll say that's a frequently asked question. Why don't you look in the video description? But if you're going to do it at all, you got to do it. No half measures. What was the Prefontaine quote that my cross country coaches always used to say? To give anything less than a full effort is to sacrifice the gift. Okay? I try to live by that. If you've watched my Ask Me Anythings before, you know that I basically approach life as if it's just high school sports. Everything is high school sports. everything is high school sports, and therefore it's good to live by the things that your cross country coach in high school said. And one of those things is to remember that to give anything less than your full potential is to sacrifice the gift. That's something Prefontaine said. And that's why when I decided to do this question, I committed myself to coming up with 5 pro tips, even though 5 is a lot. We addressed that in an earlier pro tip. Okay. That's 4. I'm close. What's number 5? Hold on, we're gonna pause for a second. What does this mean? There were 3 tips. There were like 3 tips in your number 2. What does that mean? You think I did a video that had 3 tips? I don't think so. I stuck to the format. Please explain what you mean, because if what you're saying, listen, we're cool, Catman Jimbo. I've seen you on these before. We're pals. But if you're saying that there's a video out there on my channel where I only did 3 pro tips, that's fucking wrong. That's completely wrong. I would never do something like that. The thumbnails even say 5. I invented 5 pro tips. That's the whole fucking format, and I don't back down from stuff like that. You know what I mean? To give anything less than 5 pro tips in a video that says 5 pro tips is weakness. Okay, so please tell me if I'm misunderstanding your point. I'll try to be receptive. But for anyone else who's just tuning in, this is fucking dead wrong what it says on the screen right now. Oh, and look at this. This guy over here, there's a comment. Somebody's calling me a coward. We're going to get to that too. BW. Jesus Christ. And, I respect the fact that you guys are like, hard on me. Okay. I respect that. But I'm not going to blink. I'm very hard on myself. So you guys are really going to have to bring it if you want to see me lose my shit. Okay. We're getting sidetracked here. I'm going to hit all these points, but I still have to finish the first fucking thing I had on the screen. Where is that? How to be advanced. I need a 5th pro tip for how to do a live stream. The 5th pro tip is, let me think about this. There's sort of this balancing act between like you start to figure out what your audience likes, and so then you sort of want to do that. But if you go too crazy with that, it's like when new people come in, it just seems like you're only talking to the people who've already been here, and that's difficult. You got to sort of walk this line between like giving your BFFs, your Catman Jimbo, some TLC, and also like being someone who is not just completely incomprehensible to like a new audience member. And that's hard. And my advice to that is to just like try to have a personality and remember what your personality is, and then like see if you can just sort of fall back on your personality sometimes. That's hard too. It's hard to have a personality and then be able to fall back on it. Especially on a live stream. It can be very easy to just sort of like lose everything and like lose the entire identity and just be like, who am I and what do I think and what are my views and what are my beliefs? That stuff can disappear in an instant. So you have to be very careful that you really do have beliefs and that you really do have a personality so you can fall back on it. That's pro tip number 5. Okay, we got to hop around a little bit because look at this fucking guy. Look at this question. Here's my question. Already waltzing in with the fucking attitude from BW. Here's my question. You don't need to say that. You know what I mean? It's an ask me anything. I know it's your question, right? You don't need to just fucking tap on the one and be like, hey, asshole, here's my question, but you did it anyway. Okay, here's my question. Why haven't you done a how to be advanced for the Alexander Rewind? Finish out the Leap series, you coward. I'll answer the question. But, is there, if I click on your YouTube channel, am I going to see a video about the Rewind? Did you do a video about the Alexander Rewind? How many fucking pedals in the Leap series did you make videos about? And so if that's what makes a person a coward, then how cowardly are you? That's something you have to live with for the rest of your life. Okay? When you accuse someone of being a coward for something you yourself are guilty of, you, for the rest of your life, have to answer to the fact that maybe you're the coward. Okay? I'm not going to help you with that. That's your fucking problem. But in the meantime, let me answer your question. They sent me the Rewind. It's a good delay pedal, but all the pro tips I was sort of getting out of it were very, very close to the sounds I was getting from the Alexander Space Force, which is the Leap Series reverb that came out like before that. And, one's a delay, one's a reverb, but some of the modes are a little bit similar. And a lot of the things I was thinking of how to abuse the rewind and like make the rewind do cool sounding things, it was doing cool sounding things, but they sounded close to what I made the Space Force do. And in the meantime, everything I was doing with the rewind, it was like how to use it as a conventional delay pedal. That stuff sounded good. Yeah, it's a powerful delay pedal, but I don't really make videos about like how to use a pedal conventionally. So I just felt like I could make this video and it's just sort of going to be shit you've seen before recently in the Space Force video. If the rewind had come out first, I probably would have made a video about the rewind and then I would have had to send the Space Force back. Alexander Pedals is one of my favorite pedal companies of all time. The Space Force is an amazing reverb. I think I said it was like my favorite reverb that came out that year. I think I said that on the record in a Perfect Circuit video. So this is like nothing about what I'm saying here should be construed as like a diss on the rewind or the Alexander brand or anything like that. I'm just telling you the truth. So who's the coward now? All right, cool. Let's keep going. Who's your favorite comedian? Maria Bamford comes to mind. I think she's really incredible, and very funny. And I love Eddie Murphy. Raw and Delirious are incredible, and I love Richard Pryor. And I love Shane Gillis. I've talked about him before on Ask Me Anything. If you commit yourself to watching every Ask Me Anything, at one point I don't remember which one it is, but I talk about why I like Shane Gillis. I don't know. There's a lot of funny people out there, but those are three good answers. I'm gonna hold it there for now. What kicks are you wearing right now? Chuck Taylor Converse high tops. Oh, look, this was like a two-part question. Who's your favorite comedian or who inspired you to do stand-up? This is my answer to this part is actually more interesting. What inspired me to do stand-up? I used to be in a band called Sweet Fix, which that was a band I formed in college. I was like the lead guitar player and primary songwriter, and I really sort of expected to be in that band for the rest of my life. That was the sort of band I formed, and I was thinking it was like the type of band I fantasized about being in when I was younger, and I just sort of expected to like do everything I wanted to do and sort of express every kind of musical idea I had in that band. So when it broke up, I was a little freaked out, and it took me a while to start Cyber Attack and like begin the new thing that is now what I'm known for. In between the breakup of that last band and like Cyber Attack being a thing, I was a little bit freaked out about doing music. I didn't have like a bunch of collaborators yet. I didn't have a lot of new material yet. I felt a little bit spooked. I spent a lot of time. I also had like a day job that was like sort of freaking me out. I spent a lot of time at my day job doing this like ear trainer test. There's like this free ear trainer website where it'll like play a chord and you have to identify what kind of chord it is, like, major, minor, diminished. But I set it up so that it was giving you like the hard chords too. And it would be in like any key too. Like every new chord was also being a random new key. And so you'd have to be like, it was like the options would include shit you don't even really hear anymore, like augmented major 7 and stuff. I was doing that a lot. And I say that just to sort of give you a glimpse of like what my relationship with music was. I got good at the ear trainer thing. I could do like 300 in a row before I made a mistake, but that doesn't really feel like being a musician. It's like being the kid shooting hoops at the court in the rain at night by himself. Like it can be important to do stuff like that, but it's not actually the same as playing basketball. You know what I mean? So I was doing that and I felt like sort of a loser because I wasn't in a band and I was just good at doing this ear training thing that doesn't matter. And meanwhile, I also stand-up comedy had been like the one sort of thing that like scared me in terms of the performing arts. Like I didn't really have stage fright as a musician, but sometimes when I imagine doing stand up, I was like, I don't know, that's too scary. And at this sort of emotional low point in my life, I was like, I got to start doing shit that's scary. I have to, I have to not be a coward. It would sort of be like if that other guy put a video on his channel about the Alexander Rewind, but he can't do it because he's too scared. I sort of confronted that in my own life years ago by doing stand-up comedy. So I went to some like open mic and did some open mics. And then I had a regular show for a while too at the Tank Theater. I had like a recurring thing that was sort of this like improvised comedy thing. I went for it. I was doing it. If you look at my YouTube channel before the pedal videos, there's a couple things in there that are a little, I like refer to myself as a comedian in some of those videos, and there's like formats and I'm talking about other stuff. Some of the early stuff on my YouTube channel was when I was still like doing that a little bit. And then when my YouTube channel really took off, the comedy thing sort of took a back seat. Okay. So that's like if you want to hear more about this shit, just keep asking questions about it. All right. From one North Jersey brother to another. What's up, man? Billy Evil. I like that name. Billy Evil. Nice to meet you, Mr. Evil. Devils or Rangers? Cool. I'm not a big hockey guy. I don't really know a lot about hockey. But I'll answer the question. For me, I go Devils, New Jersey Devils. Why? I went to a Devils game once when I was a kid, so there's that. Just, I guess I must have gone with must have been a friend of mine's birthday and he cared about hockey or something, or maybe it was like, I don't know, maybe I was in some sort of like dipshit youth group or something and we went to a hockey game. I don't remember, but I went to a Devils game. I was bored out of my mind, but I went. So Devils. And then also I like that the team is named after the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil's cool. They're like legendary hideous beast of New Jersey. It's like the urban legend number one of New Jersey is the Jersey Devil. What is it? Where is it? I think the Jersey Devil is a cool mythical monster thing. That's cooler than Rangers. So you can see how little I know about hockey, that I'm picking the team based on like how cool the team name is. I've been doing shit like that my whole life. That's the kind of stuff you get good at when you're a little kid who doesn't care about sports. You're just like, well, the Penguins have a blue jersey and I like blue. Maybe I could be a Penguins fan. All right, let's keep going. All right. Okay. Do you have like pro tips on EQD afterneath V3 together with EQD Rainbow Machine? I do not. No. I do not. I am going to talk about the Earthquaker device's Tentacle briefly in an upcoming video, so you have that to look forward to. The EQD Rainbow Machine is amazing. That thing sounds great, but it also, at this point, it's easy to identify the sound of the Rainbow Machine. So this is not a very helpful pro tip, but my advice would be like, try to find a way to use it that isn't just sort of saying like, I have a Rainbow Machine. That's what I try to do with most of my gear. I try to have it not just be like, oh, he turned on the Rainbow Machine. I try to have it sound like, what did he do? Okay. All right. So I wish you the best. I wish you the best. All right. Okay. All right. Well, there's a lot. I missed a lot. Oh, this one. Yeah, this was one of the pre-submitted too. What's your favorite print? Dude, you submitted this a couple of times. I was gonna get to it. Don't worry. Don't worry, man. I love Prince, and I love an Ask Me Anything. I was gonna answer the question. Very difficult question. Prince has written many great songs, and I love them all. If I can only pick one, I'm tempted to pick one that I feel like represents many of the things I love about Prince. And so I'm going to say Let's Go Crazy. I mean, that was a hit. I tend to like hits, though. You know what I mean? I like Jump by Van Halen. I like Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. I like the 90s Aerosmith hits. I like the Aerosmith song in the Armageddon movie. Don't Want to Miss a Thing. I like Crazy. I like What It Takes by Aerosmith. I tend to like songs that have been played out because everybody in the world likes them and you hear them all the time. And if you like go to Six Flags, they're playing it in the Ferris wheel. And if you like walk into a home goods store, they're playing it in the store. I tend to like songs like that. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a good song. So I also feel like I'm being true to myself if I pick a Prince hit. It would be cool to pick one of the fucking weird B-sides or like a minor song, or like, you know, say that Pop Life is my favorite or something. And obviously I do like Pop Life, but I'm going to say Let's Go Crazy. It has the hit star quality that I care about, but it checks a lot of boxes. The guitar solo at the end, I love the Prince shredding at the end. I like the beginning with the like ultra cheesy chorus organ sound that he has during the sermon. I like the spoken word thing. I like what a mind fuck the spoken word is. You know, I like the groove. I like how slutty and in your face the Lynn drum machine is on that song. You know, I like the lyrics. I like the melodies. I like that the whole thing is this kind of like hyper blast. I mean, that's my taste. You know, like a lot of the songs on my record, you can see that I'm trying to go for like a hyper blast, you know, and Let's Go Crazy has that quality. Oh, look at this. I love questions like this. Fake Bit Rebel. All right. Remember before when I said I judge questions harshly? I judge this question very favorably. So that's an accomplishment. Look at this. When you were writing lyrics, do you have any writing exercises that can help with getting through writer's block, or are you more a vessel of a muse? I'm going to answer that question, but first I'm going to tell you why I like this question. There's two reasons. One, it flatters me. You know, I'm flattered that you would ask me about my own writing process, because believe it or not, kids, like the original music I release is actually matters more to me than the pedal shit. You know, I do try to make my original music that I release under the name Cyber Attack, that's like on Spotify and everywhere else, you know, my records and everything, you know, I do care about that. So any question that makes it seem like you are looking at me not just as like a guy who maybe can help you with this Earthquaker Devices pedal running into that Earthquaker Devices pedal, like the guys who are here because like they think I might know something about writing a song, I'm flattered by that, so I like it. Notice also that this question does not accuse me of being a coward. That's allowed. I'm just saying, you know, I do notice whether a question calls me a coward or not. It is something I will notice. So that's another reason I like this question. And then two, you know, I like that you yourself are like trying to be creative. You know what I mean? Like struggling with writing lyrics is like at least you're trying to write lyrics. You know what I mean? Like you've made it past how do I plug this Earthquaker Devices pedal into that Earthquaker Devices? I'm sorry to be shitting on the guy who asked that question. I don't remember who that was. I'm sorry. I wish you luck, Earthquaker Devices guy. But yeah, no, this is a good question. What's your name again? Fake Bit Rebel. Oh yeah, I've seen you around. So I respect that you're in the thick of it. All right, now let me answer your question. I am not a vessel of a muse or anything like that. This shit does not just come to me. Lyrics, especially, I are difficult. You know, I can sometimes get going kind of quick with like a melody, and I'll have the melody. I'll be like, I know how this song is gonna go, but I don't know what the fucking words are. It takes me forever. And it got even harder once I became the lead singer, because it's like, you know, I ain't Luther Vandross. You know, I'm not just gonna make it sound good because I'm good at singing. That's not gonna happen. You know, the shot I have is to like sing it in a way where it's like, oh yeah, I bet that guy wrote that song. You know, it sounds like he means it. You know, so I could write a bunch of fucking dipshit lyrics, but if I don't know what they mean, I'm not gonna be able to make it sound good. You know, I need to write a sentence where it's like that's something I feel like saying. In fact, I don't just feel like saying it. I feel like singing it, you know, and that's like that's so dumb to be like, this means so much to me that I'm going to sing it. Like I have to write a lyric that's so good enough that it can survive being that corny bullshit thing. You know, it's hard. So, I haven't really answered your question yet, but the first part, my first little piece of good news for you is like, it's okay if it's hard. You can just let it be hard. You know, I don't think it's easy. But what you really want is writing exercises. Well, I do find that it can help to just like chip away at it and chip away at it and chip away at it. And what I mean is like putting in time staring at a blank page counts. You know, like I often find for songs that I've written that I like, if I look back through my notebook, you know, I'll see that I like tried to write the song a bunch of times. There'll be like a bunch of pages where I was like trying to write the song and then I crossed it out and then I just started rewriting it on the next page. And like maybe nothing even changes on the next page, but it just represents a certain amount of time spent like agonizing over it. And I do find that like if you just hurl yourself at it enough, you start to kind of like warm up your subconscious. And at some point, your subconscious will be like, okay, all right, we got something. What if the next line was this? That happens to me, but it doesn't happen unless I've already toiled a lot. You know, it would be nice if I could just sort of wake up and work on some other shit and be productive all day long. And then, by the way, at the end of the day, I would be like, oh, and you know what the next lyric is going to be? I figured it out. Thank you. I just got it. That doesn't really happen until I've like really crossed out a bunch of fucking stuff I hate, you know. And even as I'm writing it, I'm thinking like, this is so dumb. Like this is not going well. Just the fact that like I'm like pushing through that. A day will come when sometimes your subconscious kind of finally just fixes it for you. And then so one writing exercise is to just like, if you're stuck, just cross out the whole thing and start writing it on a new page. I also like to fill up the entire page though. I like start writing sideways. I try to fill up the whole page because sometimes or like write so close to something else that it starts to get sloppy and confused. Sometimes you do that, you'll notice two things fit together. And then sometimes I'll just, you know, I use rhyming dictionaries, and sometimes I'll just make a list of all the different words that I'm trying to rhyme or near rhymes. You know, sometimes I'll just come up with a list of like all the near rhymes. And I do think you can tell that like some of them are cooler than others. Like just looking at the words, you know, like if I'm trying to rhyme something with hard and I look up all the words that rhyme with hard, I know that bard is not a cool choice. Bard, you know, like Shakespeare is sometimes referred to as the bard. There's no lyric I'm going to write in the middle of my song where now all of a sudden I'm talking about Shakespeare the bard. That's not going to be good, you know? So even though I don't know what the lyric is yet, like I can eliminate bard, you know? And then what are the other ones? Sometimes I'll have the opposite feeling. I'll be like, that would be a cool word to use. You know, or like, I'll give you another example. There's that scene in Goodfellas where Ray Liotta says to Joe Pesci, you're funny. And Joe Pesci's like, what do you mean funny? Funny like a clown? Funny how? And he like gets insulted and he starts fucking with Ray Liotta. I think about that scene every day. I've always kind of wanted to stick funny how, or like, what do you mean funny? Or like quote some part of that in a lyric. And I did. It's for a song that's going to be in my next album. I did it already. But as a result, sometimes if I'll see in my list of rhymes that like how or somehow comes up, I'll be like, oh, maybe this could finally be the song where I rhyme funny how with something and I do the Goodfellas line. I've always wanted to quote that. Or there's a, you know, so sometimes before you know what you're going to say, just like writing a sidebar on the page where it's like all the available rhymes. Sometimes you can have a pretty good intuition about like what's going to be useless and what could be cool to bring in. And sometimes you can kind of like build a bridge from here to there based on that. I hope that helps. Oh, look at this. I'm planning to buy the Boss GM800 because of your videos. Thank you. Okay, cool. You're welcome. Will the pedal work and sound well without me buying the separate special pickup and guitar kit? I have no idea. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. They sent me the whole thing. They sent me the pickup and the cable and the pedal part. So I never had to deal with not having one of those things. I can't tell you that I know that people on forums are like attacking this problem very intensely. There's a lot of discussion about this at the gear page and at the other one, V Guitar Forums or whatever the fuck it is. Those people know a lot more than me. So I don't know. I'm so sorry. I just have no idea. Look at this. Favorite settings on the Syntax Air 2. Are you for real? I made a whole video about the Syntax Air V2. Those are my favorite settings. I don't know how I could possibly make this clearer to you. When I make a video about a pedal, those are my 5 favorite settings. And I even made one about the Syntax Air V1. And the 2 can do most of the things the 1 can do. So if you watch my video about the V1, those are my other 5 favorite settings. Man. All right, okay. Did you see the new leaked footage of VH on the 1984 tour? Oh, maybe. I've seen some stuff lately on Twitter. I followed Greg Renoff, who was like the sort of single most knowledgeable man on the planet about Van Halen stuff. And he also wrote a book about Van Halen. It's really good, called Van Halen Rising. Highly recommend it. And he also was the co-writer on Van Halen producer's autobiography, Ted Templeman. I'm sure everybody knows who Greg Renoff is. I love that guy. I follow him on Twitter, and I have noticed some new live footage I hadn't seen that I assumed was 1984 era. Like there's one of David Lee Roth doing the moonwalk and making fun of Michael Jackson, and he's wearing what I thought were the 84 tour clothes. That's what it looked like. And I hadn't seen that before, but I didn't realize there was new leaked footage. So I guess the question is yes or no. Do you remember the name of that ear trainer? My employee really wants me to practice on it. That's funny. That you're kidding, right? That your employee really wants you to just listen to this shit while you're at work. It might have been like eartrainer.com or something. I don't know. It was free and it was in browser and it was low tech. So if you just Google it, I just Googled it and found it and it wasn't hard. So if you just do that, you could probably do it. All right. Oh man. Okay. All right. There's so many questions. I never even did the first one that I said I was going to do. All right. Okay. Let me go back to that initial question I said I was going to do initially. I prepared something nice for that. Okay. This is from Mo Martin. In a synth heavy power trio made up of Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, what would each of these famous kaiju play? Just a really phenomenal question. I can't stress enough that like the questions are good. I'm very fortunate to have a following that gives me good AMA questions. I get some questions that I have, you've seen how I react when I get to some of the riffraff questions, but that's a part of it too. The AMAs wouldn't be what they are without the riffraff questions, but I am very grateful that in between the bullshit, I do get stuff like this. Okay. So in the power trio, I put Godzilla on drums. It feels right to me. I think of these 3 names, Godzilla maybe has the most name recognition. And so I may be taking a hit by not having him be the lead singer. But it's a calculated risk because I think he's right to be the drummer, and having the right drummer be the drummer in your band is really important. And I feel like having that guy back there breathing fire is going to be fucking cool. Mothra plays bass. This to me, I think, is the obvious one. I feel the best about this. I feel good about my answer for all 3 of them, but Mothra on bass to me is like, I think you're crazy if you miss that. Mothra just has that kind of like mystique. It's got the bass player mystique where you're like, I kind of want to know what the bass player's deal is. What's going on in the bass player's mind. Mothra is that. Also works out kind of nice that my understanding is that Mothra is female, and so Mothra can just be one of the great like 90s alt rock female bassists. What a rich tradition that was. Mothra is just that. And then King Ghidorah I put on vocals and synth vocals. I think King Ghidorah is like a Hydra. It's got like multiple heads, and I just feel like there's a lot of like lead singer energy there, multiple heads, extra ego, extra self. It's important for a lead singer. And then also I was thinking the 3 heads could do like harmonies together, so I feel pretty good about this actually. I know putting Godzilla behind the kit, it was a fake out, but I think if you listen to the rest of my answer, it actually kind of makes a lot of sense. All right, cool. Let's keep moving. All right, there's a lot. There's a lot of good stuff here. Oh, do you have a daily routine for improving your guitar skills, especially the more challenging, difficult stuff that can get frustrating? I do teach Zoom guitar lessons. So if you really, really want to get the full answer here, you could also just take guitar lessons from me. But I think there's like the fundamentals of like being able to mute and play accurately. That's important. If you just play, can you play cleanly and not have the open strings making noise and fucking shit up? You know, if you can't do that, make sure you can do that. If you can do that, you know, it's important to sort of know how like scales and keys and chords fit together. You know, have enough of a working knowledge of, you know, music theory to sort of be able to play over whatever you need to play. I mean, there are many genres that have sort of specific techniques and specific things that go with them, but it doesn't take a genius to be able to play over many different types of music if you sort of know the basics about with like how to play in a key, you know, or what to do with a tricky chord. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that's simple, but it does not, you do not need to have like the mind of Stephen Hawking to be able to do that. So if that feels far off, I would say try to find a guitar teacher or something who can like get you to that. I mean, any serious guitar teacher should be able to say, I can get you there. Like if you're interviewing a guitar teacher and you say, like, look, in like a year or two from now, you know, I want to be able to sort of hear a song and like figure out the chord progression and then be able to play over it, even if it's not my native style. I just want to be able to like play over it, and I want to know what to do when it gets to maybe a weird chord or something. I want to be able to like survive over something like that, regardless of what it is. You should fire any guitar teacher who's like, well, I can't help you with that. I mean that should be like the goal for anyone's who's taking guitar lessons should be to get there. Because once you get there, you can then just start to teach yourself, right? You can figure out something you don't know. You can figure it out and look at it and sort of start to educate yourself a little bit at that point. Getting there's no joke. You know, it might take more than 2 years, but you can get there. You don't need to be born with the talent of Stevie Wonder to be able to understand how to do that. And then if you're already there and you still feel like you're sort of in a rut, at that point, I would say to you, you know, the key to sounding good is to have good feel and good time. That's it. If you play everything you ever play with good feel and good time, you will sound like a good guitar player. So figure out what the issue is there. You know, listen to yourself. If you always sound a little bit not cool, you might be ahead of the beat too much, you know, or if you always sound a little bit like crummy and amateurish, it might be that you're like hitting too many open strings and what you're playing is like a little bit too noisy or a little too chaotic. Like the feel might feel a little bit unintentional. You know, you want the feel to sort of sound commanded and like, this is what I meant to play, this is what I meant to say. And you want the timing to just be hip, either on the beat or a little bit behind the beat. Ahead of the beat can be cool too, but that's the hardest one to make work because it'll probably sound bad. There are things that can be ahead of the beat that can be cool. There's like on Slayer records, sometimes they're all a little ahead of the beat, and it can give it this kind of urgency that it sort of works in Slayer world. But ahead of the beat, I would say is like the only people who should practice trying to play ahead of the beat are people who are so good that they've like already locked down being on the beat and behind the beat, and they can make that shit sound good with their eyes closed, and they're like so good at music that the only thing left for them is to do like perverted things just for the perverted challenge of it. You know what I mean? It's like if you have so much sex you need to start doing like depraved kinky shit just to get there. Like the musical equivalent of that is like, I'm gonna try to learn how to play ahead of the beat and make it sound good. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, like, you know, that's for people who have like finished the game already. Look at this. We got Cyber Squid. Just became a YouTube member. Thanks, man. My man. Yo, what up, Ivan? You made it. Great to have you. As a YouTube member, I'm now obligated to respond to every single question you put in the comments. So feel free to just derail this entire live stream with a constant barrage of questions, which I will be morally obligated to address because I said that I would. Do you teach songwriting and guitar technique? Yeah, I do. Those are two completely different things, but I teach both of them. Yeah, I would love to just talk about songwriting. I mean, I charge $100 an hour. We can do the first lesson for $50 an hour to see if you like it or not. If you want to give me $100 an hour to talk to you about how to write songs, I'm happy to take it. Who is your favorite student? It's you. My favorite student is a person named Zachary Sahovich, who is also a YouTube member, who has also showed up at this live stream. And he holds my life in his hands because I'm obligated to respond to everything he puts in the comments chat as a YouTube member. Okay, buddy, this is your time. Great. Okay, cool. All right, let's go back. I have another YouTube member question that I promised to do. This is from a guy named Tad Fat. That sounds like a Star Wars name to me. Tad Fat. You guys know what I'm talking about? It's like that guy's like related to Boba Fett. You know what I mean? It's like those names are from the same planet. We got Tad Fat and Boba Fett. Okay. All right. Thank you for joining us. I know you. It must be a long way from home. So thank you for being a part of this, Tad Fat. If you could do a jingle for anything you like, product or service, what would it be, and what is your strategy for representing it in that format? Okay. All right. Let me. I just got distracted by some other comments, but I'll get to them in a second. I tried writing a song about Six Flags once, and it felt really corny. I wanted to write a song that was just about how much I love Six Flags in New Jersey, Six Flags Great Adventure, which has the tallest roller coaster in the whole world, King Ghidorah. It's a point of pride for me as a guy from New Jersey. I tried writing a song about Six Flags. I thought it was corny bullshit. So I'd like to be able to make that song cool, but it sucked. And I never finished it. I have been collaborating with some people on some music. None of this is like released yet, and it's like a little too early for me to talk about it. But I have been working on some stuff that is sort of written to be like syncable or licensable, and with people who do that. And if that goes the way it seems like it might, the future answer to this question will just be those songs I wrote with them. So I kind of want to return to this after that thing runs its course, and we see how that goes. All right, I hope this was sufficient. Oh my God, I have been asking you for 30 minutes. Answer me. Okay, sorry. What did I miss? Are you a YouTube member though? YouTube member is not the same as subscriber. I'm not sure which one of us is missing something here. If you're a YouTube member and you've been asking questions that I haven't answered, it's because you do not have the YouTube member icon in your comments like this guy does. See how there's like that little scorpion thing next to his name? You don't have that. So YouTube member is the thing you got to pay for. If you subscribed, I appreciate it. And obviously I need everybody to subscribe, and please click like and subscribe. That's great. I'm grateful to you. But there's like a level of devotion beyond that where you now pay and you become a member. It's like Patreon, but the YouTube version of Patreon. So if you've already done that and I've been ignoring you, it's just because I don't see the icon. I apologize. If you haven't done that and you think you're a member just because you subscribed, I have some news for you. But I'll answer your question. I'll try. Let me see. I'm sorry I skipped him. Is this you? That's you. Do you like DragonBallZ? No, I never really watched it. I remember when that was a big deal. I remember Goku and all that shit, and his hair turns yellow. It looks cool. My understanding of that show was that it was just like every episode was like the entire episode was like two guys charging up their Hadoukens. Like every time I would be channel surfing and I would like stop on DragonBallZ, it would be like, and it would just be like the two guys getting ready to shoot the Hadouken for like a half hour. And I'd be like, okay, I'll check on that later. And then I would come back to it later and they'd be like, and they're like still firing up the Hadoukens. And I was like, I'm looking forward to seeing the episode of the show where they shoot the Hadouken. But that's as far as I ever got. Okay, then look at this. Do you like DragonBallZ? Well, I think I just answered that. Sorry for ignoring it. I didn't know what that other language is. That Japanese, I didn't know what that is, and I was intimidated by it. Do you like YouTube Rewind 2018? I don't know what that is. So sorry. I feel like I'm really coming up short with you. First, I ignored you. Then the answer to all your questions is no, I don't know what that is. So I apologize. Do you watch our anime? Funimation? No, I think I don't. Are you the animator of DragonBallZ? Is that who I'm talking to? Am I talking to the guy who invented DragonBallZ? I wish I'd known that when I gave my frank appraisal of what I thought DragonBallZ was 30 seconds ago. That's pretty cool. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel, DragonBallZ Creator. I mean, I always thought the show looked cool. I respected that you made a whole show that was just charging up Hadoukens. Yes, for real? I'm talking to the inventor of Dragon Ball Z? That's fucking wild. Wow. Well, welcome to the Ask Me Anything. How do I start watching Dragon Ball Z? What is it streaming on? And like, what's the beginning? Is this one of those shows where there's like a million fucking things? That's what it looks like in your username. Funimation/DB, DBZ, DBGD. Which one of those do I start with? What's like season 1, episode 1 of Dragon Ball Z? Because I'm ready to check it out. All right, cool. All right, great. Well, anyway, nice to be in touch. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. I would like to recommend that you do become a member. We both win that way because I'll answer your questions the first time, and also I'll get some of your sweet USD. All right, cool. All right, great. Let's look at this. Here's a fun one. Here's a good question. What are some songs you'd recommend to learn, practice metal picking techniques from? What's Up J? I would recommend anything from the first 3 Metallica albums: Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets. Anything from like Slayer ever, any Slayer. I mean, maybe it's easier to start with this stuff before they started tuning down, but they were always kind of in E flat though. So yeah, I would say like Rain and Blood or South of Heaven. You could start there. I guess you could start with Seasons in the Abyss too. Yeah, sure. Anything there, and then I would also say anything off of Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? That's a Megadeth album, or Rust in Peace by Megadeth. Those are my favorite like thrash records, and I learned the songs I liked from those, and that's where my metal picking got to where it is. There are guys who could do this better than me, but you know, I put Slayer and Metallica and Megadeth riffs in my pedal videos, and I think I can play the ones that I played. I don't think they sound like an asshole is playing it. And the way I got there was I got those records, and any of the songs on those records that I liked that felt doable, I just learned those songs. You know, you could tell the difference between a fast one and a slow one. So, you know, maybe start with the slow one. Maybe start with like For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica or South of Heaven by Slayer. You know, and then you can sort of build up to like Angel of Death or Battery. But I would say if you get those records and just get those records and pick whatever songs you like and go with that. Look, this is a very guitar student question. Is metal picking different from economy picking? And some good question. Yes and no. A lot of the heavy metal picking is sort of like on one string for a long time. You're just sort of drilling the like low E string, and then you go to the A string and you're there for a while. And so you don't really have the same opportunities to do the economy picking. The economy picking comes in more for soloing, in which case, yes, then it can be a real godsend. If you have to sort of fly through a scale quickly, economy picking is part of it in that case. But some of metal picking is also just playing the rhythm guitar riffs, and those are not always those don't always require economy picking. Okay, cool. Yeah, right. That's Catman Jimbo. That's what I thought you meant. By metal picking, I just meant like that style of right hand playing, palm muting, getting the attack right. Yeah, that's what I would say. That's how I was answering the question. Economy picking is the sort of like maybe more advanced thing you can use to solo at a higher level. But the answer I gave was like, get these records and pick your favorite songs. I was also interpreting the question like that. How you made your music display anime that pixel style background? Is it a filter zone? This is a frequently asked question. Look in the video description. I answer it there. Okay. Cool. All right. What else we got? Let me go back to the list of pre-submitteds. Any good alternative radio stations around your area? From Aaron P63. I've never been so sure that the random numbers at the end of someone's YouTube name was the year they were born than this question, because who else who was alive now would possibly give a fuck about radio stations in my area than someone who was born in 1963. That's not a diss. I'm just calling it like I see it. I don't think so. I live in New York City and I was raised in northern New Jersey, and throughout my entire life, K-rock as a format has like been available and then not been available. Like in the 90s, it was consistently available. And then starting in the 2000s, like it would die and we would not have K-rock for a while. And it would just get replaced with some like adult contemporary station or some like 80s synth pop station. I'm okay with that. But I always missed K-rock because there's a lot of adult contemporary stations, and most of the radio stations we have are formats that will also play 80s synth pop, right? WPLJ 1027, Light at Night. Like, it's not hard to hear Dancing in the Dark by Bruce Springsteen on any of those stations. I do sometimes wish there was a station that would play like, you know, Soundgarden or something. So K-rock has like lived and died and lived and died and lived and died many times. I don't know why. I don't know why it's like difficult for K-rock to last in the New York City area. And I actually do not know if K-rock is currently in the game. Oh, but I think it's not. I think I do know. Yeah, I don't think it is. If it is, it must be like at a different number. It must be like a really low number that I like never look at or get to. All right. Okay, cool. So I hope that's satisfying to you. You know, I'm not really sure like what answer to that question would be like the jackpot for you. Like when you ask this, like the person who asked this, any good alternative radio stations around your area, like what is the range of outcomes for how I answer it? You know what I mean? Like if I said like, yeah, like, is that better than what I said? You know what I mean? Also, I'm assuming you mean FM radio. I don't listen to satellite radio. Why not? I don't know. I grew up listening to FM radio, and I still like listening to FM radio in my car. I either listen to like CDs and bullshit like that, or FM. I know that satellite is the thing, but I just have a soft spot for FM radio. All right, cool. All right, let's keep moving. Would you ever do food reviews other than TPPOJLA from Craig F? Now, TPPOJLA stands for Tropicana Pure Premium Orange Juice Low Acid. That's a product. That's a type of orange juice that Tropicana makes. I have a lot to say about it. I made some videos about it. If you look at my channel, there's a video series I have in between the pedal shit where I just talk about Tropicana Pure Premium Orange Juice Low Acid. How much could you possibly have to say about that? Well, I had a lot to say about it. You know, it means a great deal to me. I made many videos about it. You know, I do have sort of a belief system that's wrapped up in all this. It has to do with TPPOJLA. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should watch those videos because there's a lot. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of there's an aspect of reality that you might not know about it unless you watch my videos about orange juice. Having said that, no, I don't think I could ever do food reviews other than TPPOJLA. Everything I have to say about food, I have said in those videos. I don't have anything to say about food that's not that. Because at a certain point in the Tropicana videos, I do start talking about other types of foods I call like CVS food. Like the kind of groceries you can buy in the food aisle at CVS, you know, like smooth, skippy peanut butter or like gummy hamburgers or like, you know, like bars, shit like that. I have some stuff to say about that stuff, but I've already said it in the TPPOJLA videos. You know, I'm not a guy who can do anything else. I mean, I like food. I like to eat, but like you know, I don't have anything interesting to say about like, you know, fucking real restaurant. I mean, if I go to a real restaurant and I eat the food and it's good, I'm like, oh, nice. Yeah, it's a good restaurant. But like, you don't need a video for me being like, I went to a restaurant, it was good. You know, that's what the video would be like. Maybe that would do well. I don't know. Maybe I should start like a YouTube channel that's like just YouTube shorts where I'm just like, so I went to this restaurant on 68th Street. Wasn't bad. You know what I mean? Maybe that would take off. Um, all right, okay, cool. What is this comment? It's not food. What are you talking about? You saying orange juice isn't food or whatever? Listen, man, I thank you for engaging in the video, but you just clearly have not even watched the videos we're talking about here. You know what I mean? Like you have a lot to learn. I'm sorry to say. If you think that the orange juice, my commentary about orange juice is not food, CVS food, it's not food. Yeah, dude, we are so far past that. Like, I know that it's not food. I know that the food in the CVS groceries aisle is not food, and it's all processed bullshit. I know that a gummy hamburger is not food. Everything I'm saying like starts way past that. Like, I know maybe you think this is just like the beginning. Okay, go on and watch. That's all. This is what we needed to get to. Go and watch the OG videos. Cool. That's all right. Okay, that's what we needed to get to. We don't need to spend more time on this. All right. Oh, here's a cool one. I like it when people ask these questions that it's sort of like a little bit of a provocation. It's a little bit like justify this thing, smart guy, you know? But I like that this question sort of is doing that, but it also stops short of calling me a coward, which cool. This is a level of like implied hostility that I really have no problem with at all. What's your case for E standard tuning versus the million other tuning options from Stevie? I mean, there's just something funny to me where it's just like, oh, okay, Mr. Ask Me Anything. Justify this one thing that you've never even talked about. Now it's your fucking problem. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just the guy who like talks about pedals and is releasing some indie music. Like, I never said like I am the spokesperson for standard tuning. You know what I mean? I never put myself out there. But now they're like, yeah, it's now. Well, now you are. It's your fucking problem. You want to answer any kind of possible question that's out there? You want to call the video Ask Me Anything? Okay, here, justify standard fucking tuning as opposed to the million other things that are out there. Okay, I will. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, like, I think there is something amusing about, like, it's something about like the type of person who arrives at this question. You know what I mean? I feel like I don't know. It would be like if I showed up to like Rick Beato's live stream and I was like, justify the gold standard. You know, make that make sense. Go. You know what I mean? That's the energy I'm getting from this question. Look, number one is that like maybe the million other tuning systems are better. I could believe that. I have a very small personal investment in standard tuning. Joni Mitchell did a bunch of cool shit. She was like never in standard tuning, right? Soundgarden was cool. A lot of that stuff is fucking great, and it's like never in standard tuning. So like maybe standard tuning is the worst one of all. I'm not. My case for standard tuning is going to be like not an invincible case for it. I'm going to say standards are valuable. It's nice to have a standard, and if you want to play music with other people, it's nice to just be in the same tuning. And the easiest way to be in the same tuning as everybody else is to pick the standard one. Well, we have a standard one. I mean, that to me is enough. I would also say that it does seem like there are a nice variety of chord voicings you can get to in standard tuning. Like it seems like it's maybe not the absolute worst choice for being able to play lots of different types of chords in lots of different types of keys. Like I'm just thinking for a second, like if you tuned all the strings so that they were a whole step apart, it would be much harder to play like a fully extended, minor 11 chord that's like fully voiced and spans a couple octaves. You lose that. Or if you like tune all the strings to the same pitch in different octaves, people do cool stuff with that. I think Lou Reed had something called the ostrich tuning. That stuff does sound cool, but it's probably not a very, very versatile key, right? I mean, there's probably all kinds of like very simple major triad shapes you can't do when you're doing that. So I would say the case for standard tuning is just that it's proven to be versatile and everybody uses it. So for me, that's good enough. I also think that like having some constraints or some limitations can also force you to be creative. Like if you just wake up tomorrow and you're like, wow, I could tune my guitar to be anything, and I could really start anywhere. Good luck getting started after that. It's hard to get started when you have an infinity of first possible moves. So one nice thing about standard tuning is that it takes away the infinity of it, but you still have a certain amount of versatility too. Um, my old band was in E flat. We did E flat because I made the singing a little bit easier, and then sometimes in E flat we would then go down to drop D. And when you do that, at this point you're like a minor third below standard tuning. Like if I go to E flat and I go to drop D, my low note is a low D flat. That's like three half steps below what my normal low note is in standard tuning. And like sometimes I would just play shit down there and be like, this does sound fucking heavy and cool. I'm aware of that as much as the next guy. There is something very appetizing about how heavy and low you can get. But then on the other hand, Master of Puppets is in standard tuning, and that's a fucking heavy record, And so I respect the fact that those boys could be that heavy and furious in standard, which makes me think that like if you just try to write heavy fucking riffs and you don't cheat by making them sound heavy because they're low, that's honest work. And so part of me wants to assume that. But I'm not saying that everybody that tunes down is cheating. You know what I mean? Like the Black Sabbath low shit is cool. The Smashing Pumpkins low stuff is great. So I'm not really trying to talk trash here. So that's my case. That's my case. Look at this. Hey Coward, what's your skincare routine? I don't really have a routine really. I try to have what I would call basic hygiene. I'm a little worried that like that option seems to be unfamiliar to you. If you're looking at me and thinking like, why does that guy's skin look so good? What you're looking at is like the basic normal human skin. There's like nothing fancy about it. Like this is just what you get if you're like not an unclean dipshit every day of your life. So I would say you have a distance to go just to be able to get to like the baseline there, and if that it sounds like you're a person who would benefit a lot from just like bathing, and then maybe also not consuming huge amounts of filth, because that can clog your pores and give you acne too. These are like the basic things I learned just from being a socialized person who lives in the world. So I don't know why you missed out on that information, but I hope maybe this could be a turning point in your life. How did you discover the guitar? My dad played me Jimi Hendrix music when I was a small child, and I flipped out. That was it. I couldn't handle it. I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever heard. Is there a major difference when you're actually down tuning the guitar and using a Digitech drop? Well, somebody said latency. That's a good answer. Also, latency sometimes is worse for lower pitches because literally the frequency of a lower note is lower. It oscillates a fewer number of times per second. That's why we perceive it as lower. Like when you hear pitch, literally what's happening is just your ear is detecting like the number of compressions and rarefactions of air pushing on the eardrum, and a lower note is fewer of those. So since you get fewer of those per second, it can take longer for a digital system to correctly identify the pitch because it has to wait longer to get a usable sample of information to be able to detect the pitch. So lower notes in general are a bigger challenge for eliminating latency. So turning to a digital solution specifically for tuning down, right out of the gate, you're sort of stepping into a trade-off. Is it an insurmountable trade-off? Maybe not. I mean, the Digitech drop is a product. Like, why would they even make it if low notes are fucked up for pitch and latency? Maybe they can make it work. I've never used one, so maybe it's fine. I'm just saying that's one concern. The experience I've had with like lower octaves and stuff is that they do sound cool, and like fake low octaves can be great. I mean, I'm a guy who likes fake shit, right? That like, it's every video I've ever made has just been about like, listen to how cool this fake shit is. So fake shit is good, but I generally don't think that like lower octaves and octave pedals sound good the way a down-tuned guitar sounds. Like they do sound different to me still. And if you just want to sound like, you know, Jelly Belly by the Smashing Pumpkins, my understanding is like you should just tune your guitar down. I mean, it's not that hard. You know what I mean? You literally just turn the tuning peg down. It's not like the Smashing Pumpkins spent like 8 hours tuning the thing down. You know, I think they just tuned it down and went for it. Maybe that's not true. Maybe they spent a huge amount of time like intonating the guitar and setting up the guitar to be in a lower tuning and auditioning different guitars to see which one had like the best sound in that range. You know, maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, that's my attempt to give a nuanced answer to that question. Samplers, stereo versus mono. I prefer stereo as an option. The OP1 can only take mono samples. You know, that can be a drag, especially if you sample something that is initially stereo. You know, you can do cool stuff by like taking a sample of like a note that has a lot of reverb on it, and then having the sample just be this sort of like artificial chopped up little sliver of this huge reverbed up thing. But if the reverb is in stereo and you have to collapse it down to mono just because of your sampler, I do always consider that to be a loss. Oh, what was up with those neck tattoos? Were you expecting to go to prison at that time? No, I put on temporary tattoos every time I perform, and every time I make a music video. So that was the thing I started doing before my YouTube channel was like what it is now. Like every time I had a show, I would just put on different temporary tattoos, and I would try to pick temporary tattoos that were like from the grocery store. You know what I mean? I would like try to get the sheet of temporary tattoos that was like little kid shit, and then like put on the whole sheet. You know, it started because like when I was first in a rock and roll band in like New York City, I was playing with a lot of other rock and roll bands, and like everybody had like the flaming 8-ball, you know, or like the gargoyle. Like it was a lot of like badass tattoos everywhere, and I didn't have any tattoos. And I was like, part of me just wants to push very far in the other direction. So I was like, why didn't I just get like one of those sheets of tattoos that's like race cars? You know what I mean? And then like I'll put the whole sheet on. So every time I had a show, I would have like different tattoos. And then the other thing I started doing, this was like the first advanced thing I ever did. I started putting the tattoos on like a week before the show so that they would like start to get faded and fucked up the way temporary tattoos get. So like I had all these sort of like imperceptible fake bad tattoos that they look like sort of like damaged JPEGs. Like that was like the first cool thing I ever did, right? It was like fake bad tattoos that I put those on for every show. And then I also put them on when I was shooting music videos. So if you look at like all my music videos, I have tattoos on. And then at a certain point, I started making more YouTube videos than I was doing live shows, especially because my YouTube channel really started happening during lockdown. So I just didn't have tattoos on in a lot of my YouTube videos, which I feel bad about. I mean, it's actually a little bit annoying and time consuming to put on like hundreds of temporary tattoos. So it would have been cool if I like maintained that as my like part of the visual presentation, you know, but I took the hit, you know. I was already doing like stop motion animation for every single one of these fucking things, you know, 5 pro tips. Like it's a lot of work goes into one of my like little 10-minute videos. So I just sort of took the easy way out with the tattoos. I do regret it. I mean, there was a while when like the only stuff on my channel was like my music videos and stuff. And I also had a makeup artist on those. So, you know, I was it's a little bit easier to like put yourself out there when you've got like the wardrobe and the makeup and the tattoos and everything is like locked down, and you can edit the music video, and you can sort of like put yourself out there as the like, you know, I'm ready for my close-up version of yourself, but then at a certain point your YouTube channel takes off and you got to do these Ask Me Anythings, and like I started cutting corners and like not calling the makeup artist, and I had to come to terms with that. Now when I used to sort of think like people are going to watch these music videos and be like, oh, that's what he looks like, and now it's like, that's what I look like. But we all have to live in the world. We all have to live in the world. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, right. That was the idea. It was like, does this guy get his tattoos surgically removed after every show and then get new tattoos? Like, that's what I was trying to make people confused about it. I was trying to be like, I wanted people to be like, how much of a psycho is this person? Like, what is going on with the tattoos? So yeah, that's funny. What other ways have you implemented being advanced in your life? Well, I would recommend watching the orange juice videos. I sort of addressed that there. The tattoos is one example. What else? So I personally no longer like drink or smoke or get high or do drugs. I don't even drink caffeine. I'm like totally sober. I have no problem with doing that stuff, and I'm in favor of like heavily liberalized, decriminalized drug laws across the board. But I personally don't do it anymore. And for me, this is a form of like, it's connected to some of the other stuff. Like when I was saying before about like I want to stay in standard tuning just to sort of force myself to try to be creative within the constraint. Like I consider sobriety to be a similar type of creative challenge for myself. Most of my favorite musicians have done incredible work while they were stoned out of their minds. People who are more talented than I am, who have made better records than I have done it, while completely obliterating themselves. But I think a lot of those people are also more talented than I am, and I'm just trying to do. I think Jimi Hendrix was better than me, but I'm still on some level trying to compete with Jimi Hendrix. I mean, I don't think I'm close, but I'm a competitive person, and I'm like putting my music out there, and I'm like on some level, if I'm going to release anything, I sort of have to say like, I stand by this, you know what I mean? And just as a competitive guy, like there is a part of me that thinks like you got to be ready to kill your heroes at any time, and Jimi Hendrix like died when he was 27. He accomplished a lot in that time, but like what chance the only chance I have to like close the gap as much as I can is to like live past 27 and like see if I can turn the corner on some shit that he never got to. None of this should sound like I'm criticizing Jimi Hendrix, all right? And I'm not even saying it's a shame that he shouldn't have done drugs so he would have lived longer and he did it to himself. Ted Nugent says shit like that. I'm not saying that. I'm not harboring any judgment. I'm just saying, as a guy who's trying to figure out it reminds me of when I was on the high school cross country team. Remember when I said everything is high school sports? I was not exaggerating at all. I remember like running a cross country race and seeing like way in front of me would be some guy from Palisades Park. That was the town next to my town. I'm from Leonia. And he would be just like, 800 meters in front of me. And I'd be like, we got another mile left in this race. How am I going to do it? How am I going to close the gap? How am I going to get up there? And I couldn't always do it, but I could only ever do it if I believed it was possible. I had some bad races where I was like, that's too far. I can't catch up to that guy. And then you start to shut down. You start to be like, well, guess it's not my day. I'll just get to the finish line, try to finish with dignity. I'll just hang on. Maybe I can have a semi-decent time today, but I'm not going to catch that guy. That's a bad race when you start thinking that way. The best races I ever ran where I was like, fuck, I got to close 800 meters to beat Pal Park. Fuck it, let's do it. That's the winning attitude. Maybe not all those races would I ever beat the guy, but I ran a lot better races when I believed there was some chance. Okay. So all I'm saying here is like, clearly Jimi Hendrix and whoever else is like distantly in front of me, but I just refuse to surrender. You know what I mean? Like I'm just this guy over here trying to close the gap as much as I can. And so for me, I feel like um there is a sort of like uh discipline or like a sort of fitness that I think I personally benefit from um by by uh from my sobriety. But again, other people are clearly not doing it and they're outperforming me, so you decide who's really right about this. um but there was one more thing I wanted to say though. Oh yeah, let me just say I do understand that like drugs is the pedal board of the mind. I get it. I get it, right? Like you can take these chemicals that then like scramble up your signal flow. Like drugs are cool the way pedals are cool. In fact, I took a music course in college um, about like music technology. It was called Computers and Music. I mean, you can imagine how influential that course was for your old pal Cyber Attack because it was literally called Computers and Music. And the professor at one point all but said that like in this course we're going to be learning about the different technologies that people have used to do experimental creative things with music, starting with like tape loops and the original tape loop weirdos like Pauline Oliveros and those psychos, going all the way through the electric guitar and synthesizers and Morton Subotnick. And then we got to like hip hop and sampling and like digital manipulation. And there was this day when like the professor was like, there is a version of this course that would also include the drugs, and when people were doing ecstasy and they were like consuming that piece of technology, the chemical technology doing ecstasy, that affected the music in a certain way too. So I get it. I get it. But I'm still in the phase of life where I'm like trying to play without effects. There was a while, there was like 10 years when I didn't really use effects. I've talked about that on other Ask Me Anything. I was like taking guitar lessons and practicing a lot, and I had sort of a macho attitude about that. I was like, effects is for people who don't have this. I mean, you can imagine the ways in which I was sort of probably annoying. But I do think whatever skills I have as a guitar player benefited from that time. I can play straight. I mean, even in my pedal videos, there are times where I'm using an effect that is like kind of subtle or whatever. And like I think I've demonstrated that I can like just play the guitar at a certain level. You know what I mean? I can like I could just plug it into the amp and like play some chord melody shit that's like kind of good, I think. Or whatever, the solos. I mean, the solos on my record, the solos on the first Cyber Attack record, like I think I tried to shred. I mean, I have no problem saying that. Like I put some shit on there. I was like, I wonder who else could even play that. And I would not have gotten there if I didn't spend a lot of time not fucking around with pedals. But I think part of the reason why I have the relationship with pedals that I do is because I'm not emotionally dependent on them. You know what I mean? I think they're great and I think they're cool, but I'm like not afraid to lose them. And I think sometimes, there's a power you can have when you're just like not afraid to die. There's a power to that when you can be like, I know I'm the guy with the pedals, but you could take them away, and I would still have some ability there. You could do it. I'm not scared. I think some of the most like powerful shit you can ever do is just sort of look someone in the eyes and not blink. Even if they call you a coward or whatever, even if you get people on your Ask Me Anything and call you a coward and you just don't blink and deal with it, I think that's a strong position. So why am I talking about this? Why did this become the Joe Rogan podcast all of a sudden? Right. So for me, I feel like trying to be creative without using the pedal board of the mind. I personally feel like it's part of why I'm able to do the things I'm able to do. But again, I'm saying this with I really hope my position does not sound like conservative. You know what I mean? Like I'm in favor of decriminalizing drugs, and I'm aware that many creative people and good friends of mine and artists I admire are doing like a lot of drugs, or some of them do medium drugs, or some of them do a little drugs. And all people who do all those different amounts of drugs are like doing good work. So I'm not I'm whatever. I hope nothing that I said sounds like the Ted Nugent's position on this. Okay, but what was the original question? Oh yeah, what are some other ways you've implemented being advanced in your life? This to me is a version of that. This is a version of that. Okay, all right. Cool. All right, what else we got? Oh, this is good. Check out what my student said. I didn't even tell him to do this. I don't even like to use my guitar first, let alone effects. I usually try to get my core by singing what I want to play first. It's very good to do that, because like when you sing, normally you're just sort of going for what you want. I mean, that maybe changes after you become a really good singer and you can know that you can do things that are fucking hard. Like, should I go for the thing? But anyone south of that level of vocal ability, when you sing anything, you're just sort of singing what you hear. And that's like a very pure musical connection, So that's a good place to start. Oh man, look at this mixing question, song structure question. I'm struggling with how I plan out my vocals. For verses, do you do lead vocals down the center, or lead down center and right, or pan hard Eleanor harmonies? I really avoid mixing my own stuff for this reason. I mix my own stuff if it's just instrumental guitar bullshit in a pedal video. But if I'm singing on it, that means it's like the Cyber Attack album, and I don't mix those. I hope I never have to mix those. People are so much better at this shit than I am. I don't fucking know. I mean, I think you should put the lead vocal down the center. Sounds like the right thing to me. And then pan the harmonies. But how much do you pan them? Look, I don't know. I don't know, man. I would say like you should not be. It's interesting to me that you are having this be a mixing question / song structure question, though. I guess maybe a better answer I could say would be like, this is only a mixing question. Whatever part of you thinks that this is on some level also a song structure question, there's your problem. Okay, that part of you is like the source of the dysfunction here, if I may. Okay, like you should just figure out the song structure before you have to worry about the pan positions of the harmonies. You know what I mean? The pan positions of the harmonies, like if you can hire someone else to do it for you, that's what I would do. Like you don't ever, so you never even have to fucking worry about that. But even if you're gonna mix your own stuff, worry about that later. Like, it sounds like you would benefit from being able to say like, well, here's how my song just goes. Like, strum it for yourself with an electric guitar unplugged and sing it. And if you can get from the beginning of the song to the end of the song like that, like just a dipshit singer songwriter, if it sounds good, then I don't think making the wrong panning choice will be fatal. Okay, like you seem to think that like some aspect of how you're panning these vocals is a song structure thing, which makes me think maybe you're like differentiating your verse and your chorus by having the verse vocal be in the center, and then the chorus comes in, and now the panning is different, and so that helps make the chorus sound like a bigger thing than the verse did. Well, yeah, you can do shit like that, but that should not be doing the main lifting for making your chorus sound like a chorus. You should just be able to sing the verse and sing the chorus and have one sound like one and the other sound like the other. And if it doesn't sound like that, I think there's your problem. So I think the song structure shit, that stuff should sort of be sensible. You should like strum your fucking song on an unplugged acoustic guitar and play it for your buddy and have him be like, I want you to try to guess where the verse is and where the chorus is. Like he should be able to do it. Now, maybe you're making a style of music that like doesn't have verses and choruses. maybe you're trying to do stuff that's a little more adventurous or structurally a little more weird or just a little more ambiguous, that's cool. That's cool. But my stuff's not really like that. My stuff is like, it's kind of bubblegum at the end of the day. Like the songs I've written and released, they're little verse chorus babies. I mean, I'm the kind of like nerdy dipshit who's like afraid to do drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like that's who I am on some level. Like I'm gonna write a fucking verse chorus song, and then I'm gonna use some fucking weird guitar tones, and like the solo might shred, and like some of the sensibilities and the synth sounds, like they might be a little glitchy and weird, but I'm just doing that to like cover up the fact that it's really just a glass of orange juice. My songs, they have titles like I Know the Feeling, and it's just a fucking little love song. You know what I mean? Like there was a CC DeVille quote where he was like, I'm just serving hamburgers over here. And like, I don't really like Poison, and CC DeVille is not one of my guys, but that was a great quote. That was fucking great. When CC DeVille was like, as a musician, I'm just serving hamburgers over here. That's pretty cool. So it sounds like maybe you're doing stuff that's like got more Michelin stars than a hamburger. That's cool. But, my advice is like, can you make a hamburger? If your girlfriend was just like, can you just like make me a fucking hamburger, please? Can you do it? You might, some of your song structure problems you might get new purchase on some of that if you like get a little better at just flipping the hamburgers. Look at this. Have you considered comedy or comedic writing? Bro, thank you for being here, but it's clear you came in late. Where I addressed this the answer is yes, I have considered it and done it. We addressed that earlier. So there, you may enjoy watching Ask Me Anything from the beginning when you get a chance. I have a lot of sound design recordings that get shelved and no complete recordings of songs. I think I'm a perfectionist, but the doodles are good. How do I get that stuff into a song? Any ideas? I have some stuff like this. It can be hard. I do benefit from the fact that like I have to keep putting out these YouTube videos, and my format is every pedal video has to have these 5 little pro tips, and each pro tip gets a little song. It's like a minute long, so I have to crank out these like minute long songs. And I found more uses for some of my shelved ideas because I have to just put out so many of those. If you just sort of are working on, if you have all the time in the world to indie release your 10 song album, that's just your 10 favorite songs, and you're just sort of working on 10 songs, there may not be many opportunities to do everything you've left on the shelf. But if you just start to have to crank out a lot more material than that over and over and over and over again, all of a sudden you'll be like, man, I'm so fucking out of ideas. Like maybe the one thing this stupid little 60-second piece of music is missing is that weird field recording I have. And that's happened to me. So if there's some way to artificially force yourself to produce and finish a lot more material, you might find that a lot of this stuff comes off the shelves. All right, cool. I feel like I've been hanging out with the comment people and have not been doing my pre-submitted so much. Oh yeah, here's a good one from Instagram. This is from Too Many Hobbies. Is Axl Rose responsible for the creation of Insane Clown Posse and all Juggalos because of My World? From Too Many Hobbies. I think the subtext for this question is that there's a Guns N' Roses song called My World. It's the last song on Use Your Illusion 2 that is just like very bewildering and toxic and bizarre. It's very short. If you never heard it and you listen to it, it just sounds like this sort of terrible boundary violation. That's what it sounds like when you listen to this song. It sounds like your sort of inner defenses are just getting violated by Axl Rose and his personal problems. Like I'm a Guns N' Roses fan, and like I have no problem saying that that My World, that song is just like the musical equivalent of a boundary violation. But it's also just sort of like as provocative and toxic and confusing and strange in a way that is also a little Juggalo-ish. You know, it's a little bit Insane Clown Posse. So I see the connection there. There is a sort of like artistic, like fuck you energy behind the song My World and behind Insane Clown Posse. So this isn't even really a question. I guess it is a question. And I would say I think to some extent Axl Rose is responsible. But I do think that Insane Clown Posse has also done things, and like part of their accomplishments are things that I don't think are just picking up from where Axl Rose left off. I mean, I think that I'm not a huge Insane Clown Posse fan, but one of my childhood friends was. And there are things about them that I sort of respect. I mean, there's like very rich lore. There's like the Insane Clown Posse like tradition. Like they've got their legends, and there's like this continuity. And like the first 6 albums, each of them was like a different Joker card, and they kept saying that when they released the 6th Joker card, they're going to reveal the legend of the butterfly, and there was some mystery about like what is the legend of the butterfly. And then the 6th card was played, and they did explain it. Like, I think there's something cool about there is a sort of like Dungeons and Dragons ongoing campaign thing to like the Insane Clown Posse album run that I think is cool. And then visually, you know, putting aside whether it's your taste or not, like they do have a very clearly defined visual thing with the makeup and everything. You know, they're a lot like Kiss or Slipknot, and that you get the sense that there's this sort of like larger comic book world you can sort of step into, and the fact that their fans are juggalos and have a culture. I mean, you know, it takes a lot of work to establish all these kinds of things, and to have people sort of get it and follow it. Like having a band where the makeup and the album art and one album to the next, and the concerts and the audience and the look and the t-shirts and the merchandise, like having all that stuff be as cohesive as Insane Clown Posse's is an accomplishment. And P.S., I wish Guns N' Roses in today's day and age was a little more on top of this. You know, I saw Guns N' Roses at MetLife last week, and I did feel a little bit confused about like presentationally, you know, the vibe, the sort of like visual presentation of Guns N' Roses. It felt vaguer to me than it has in previous times. Like the sort of the Appetite for Destruction, I felt like was this very specific, sleazy, evil, charismatic thing that I get. I understand. The record sounds like it. Axl Rose is that, but it was also always tempered with this. There is also a certain like Axl Rose sentimentality. Like some of his hit songs aspire to being beautiful in a way that Insane Clown Posse doesn't. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's why I like Guns N' Roses more than Insane Clown Posse, because I am a sucker for that kind of beauty. You know, there's like just like a romantic impulse to songs like November Rain or Don't Cry or Sweet Child of Mine, or even the fact that Appetite for Destruction ends with the sort of clean major key part of Rocket Queen. You know, there is a sort of like, you can see that Axl Rose does aspire to being a songwriter that can get to that kind of romance, and I've never heard any Insane Clown Posse material that tries to do that. But on the other hand, like I did feel a little bit confused by Guns N' Roses at MetLife by like how much are they kind of just being like a classic rock review act. You know, it felt a little bit like, I mean, it was a 3-hour show. I respect the fact that they didn't go for 3 hours, but like, you know, Slash had a solo spot where he sort of did this like blues jam thing. That was like 2 hours into it. And it felt a little bit like, you know, you're at the classic rock, like welcome to the classic rock entertainment show, or like the classic rock variety hour starring Guns N' Roses. And that's a little bit different than like the insane like boundary violation vibe of Axl Rose. You know, I mean, like Slash was wearing a t-shirt that I think had Travis Bickle on it. I think it was Robert De Niro from Taxi Driver. I think that's what was on Slash's t-shirt, and I was like, how much is that still what these guys are doing and how much of it isn't, you know? Like, because here we are at MetLife, people have brought their kids to the show, and it didn't feel insane for there to be children at the show, you know? But then on the other hand, I was like, well, whatever. I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself. Anyway. So I think it's a good question. I do think there's some interesting connections there to be made between Insane Clown Posse and Guns N' Roses. In your opinion, what is the Swiss Army knife of guitar pedals? Maybe the Timeline by Strymon. That's a delay pedal that can produce many other effects. I have a YouTube video called, the first pedal video I ever made was called the Strymon Timeline, How to Be Advanced. Now, that was my first video. So if you watch it now, it wasn't quite as clean as some of the stuff I made later. Like the camera I was using, the recording, like you could see that, like, that's where Ivan started. But I do go over many different effects you can get out of the Timeline that don't have anything to do with delay. And then later, the one sort of missing thing from that was like, well, can you use the Timeline as a distortion pedal? Can you do that? And you actually can. I didn't know it then. I found out later there is a way to use the Timeline as a distortion, believe it or not. And to learn about that, you got to watch my video called Strymon Classics, How to Be Advanced. I talk about a couple different Strymon pedals in that video, but one of them is the Timeline, and I talk about how to use it as a distortion pedal. All right. We're in the home stretch here. Let me get through some of the earlier submitted questions. Here's a cool one that I wanted to get to. This is, man, I'm a little fried at this point. I hope I can give this question a good answer. Does the way you visualize sound inform the way you edit your videos? If so, how? And what art or experiences do you think influence the way you visualize sounds or music? Thanks. The Timmy 665. I like how you're sort of like one under the Satan number. There's 666, which is like pure evil, but then like pure evil minus 1 inch. Well, that's our man, the Timmy. I can relate to that because my birthday is November 1st, which is the day after Halloween, and I used to wish that I was born on Halloween. I was like, that would have been cool if I was just like Satan's child. I was just born on Halloween. I was like, man, like, I just wish that's who I was. But later in life, I realized like maybe it's my destiny to like get comfortable with being the guy who was just born the day after Halloween, which is actually called All Saints Day. And it's like the opposite of the evil day. I was like born on the good day, and I'm going to leave it as an exercise for the viewer to reflect on how that realization may have dictated who I became and how I became the man you see me before me today. So I can relate to this guy for being like the day before Halloween. That's like what 665 is. It's like one under 666. All right. Okay. I mean, I guess one thing I'll say is that like I really am trying to make music that sounds like what the shit in my videos looks like. Like the bright colors and the sort of like surreal, beautiful, artificial thing. Like fake food you buy from CVS, the taste of bright yellow orange juice, the scenery in my videos where you're like looking at northern New Jersey and like the sky is having a seizure, and the sound of cyber attack. I am trying to have all those things kind of be the same. And every time I get better editing the videos, I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is closer to what I've been trying to do the whole time. And then I've tried to make the music sound even more like that. Or if the music gets better, then I push myself to see if I can get the video to get a little bit closer. So if you want to know, like, I mean, also just in general, I feel like I like a sound where I feel like I can see the scenery of that sound. Anytime I hear something where it like makes me picture something, it makes me feel like I did a video about the Source Audio C4, and I got this one really sort of like contaminated distortion sound that I said made me feel like I was standing in a field and there was just this like flickering electricity storm of distortion around me. And that's what the sound felt like. Any sound that makes me think of anything like that is I generally like. So what art or experiences do you think influenced the way you visualize sound or music? I mean, it was probably playing a lot of video games as a kid. I was a child during the like 16-bit era, and we had a Sega Genesis. Oh, sorry. Just one question I just want to very quickly hit right here. Bonus question. What is the guitar that can cover all bases, jazz through gent? I think any normal good guitar should be able to do that, to be honest with you. I think like a Fender Stratocaster can do that. I think a Gibson SG can do that. I think any, like what I like in a guitar is that it's not over specialized, but it just gives you like a basic tone that has some kind of harmonic thing there. And then isn't too specific to, you know, if you get like some like really high output like active pickup thing that is like a very specific sculpt EQ that is like dialed in to be exactly what you need it to be for this one particular type of music you're doing, that's cool. But that's not the kind of guitars I like to play. I like to play guitar where it's just sort of like, yeah, that sounds fine, and then you can take it anywhere. So, you know, I think you can, I think any guitar that is like has passive electronics and sounds good can do it. I mean, it's not hard to get single coil pickups and humbucker pickups in the same guitar, so maybe that'll help. But even then, I think a Strat that only has single coils can do it, and I think a Gibson SG that only has humbuckers can also do it. I just think like I think a low tech guitar that sounds fine in the hands of the right player and the right gears, I think you can do anything. Okay, sorry, back to this. Right. Okay. Here's the, you asked for like a, I mean, I'm gonna try to give you a specific example. I remember I used to play Mortal Kombat. I'm gonna make a video about this at some point. I'm gonna make a video that's called like Mortal Kombat 2, how this invented like glitch for me. That's not a good YouTube title. I want to make some YouTube video. I don't know what the title is going to be. That's about how like my understanding of like glitch art began with Mortal Kombat 2. It's because Mortal Kombat 2 is a fighting game, okay? And there was one character who could change into all the other characters. Shang Tsung. He was the bad, unplayable boss from the first game, became playable in the second game. So in the second game, you could pick a character who could like turn into every other player for 20 seconds. And then every character in that game had a finishing move where like after you win, then before the round is over, like your opponent who's dead will be sort of like out on their feet and you can do one last hit. But if you do a special combination, you can then do a fatality on them where you like kill them. And it's a special move you can only do right at that moment in the game. Every character in the game had finishing moves, but there was one character that had a two-part finishing move. There's a Sub-Zero fatality in this game where he froze the other guy and then goes up to the frozen guy and then like kills them while they're frozen. But the freeze move is not his normal freeze move. He has a special finishing move where he does the special freeze thing that you can only do as a finishing move. So you have to do that. And then after you do that, you can go up to the frozen guy who's now has a different type of ice on him. It's like the finishing move ice. And when they're in that state, you can then do this other thing that will kill them. That stood out to me because Sub-Zero was the only guy who had a two-part finishing move where you have to do the freeze and then you have to go up to him and enter a second thing to do the move. He was the only character that had that. So it like was interesting to me. I was like, that's different. And then I was like, what could you do with that since it's different? Like how could you sort of use that for something? And then I was like, well, I wonder what would happen if you like did the first part of Sub-Zero's two-part finishing move and then did a different character's fatality. Like that could be interesting. Like what if you did the first part of Sub-Zero's thing, but then instead of doing part 2 of Sub-Zero, you brought in a different person? I was like, well, there's no way to do that. And then I was like, wait a minute. Maybe Shang Tsung can do it. There's a character in this game who can become every player in the game. So then I was like, wait, maybe there's a way to be Shang Tsung, turn into Sub-Zero, kill the guy, then while you're still Sub-Zero, do the first part of the freeze move, and then turn into someone else and do the rest of the finishing move. Now, that's hard because you only have a little bit of time to do the finishing move, right? When the guy is like waiting for you to kill them and they're like, finish him. You got like 10 seconds or something. But I was a little kid then. This was like before I was practicing guitars, before I had girlfriends. I had like time to invest in bullshit like this. So I looked up how long does a Shang Tsung morph last? And it was like, 12 seconds or something. Maybe it was longer. I don't remember. I looked it up and I was like, okay. So if he's Sub-Zero for like 20 seconds, maybe I can like, it was too hard to do against the computer. So I set up a 2-player game where the second player was just a dummy. Like I had 2 controllers plugged in and I played against myself, but I left the other controller. No one was touching it. So I could just beat up on a dummy. So then I was like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Shang Tsung against the dummy. And then I'm going to turn into Sub-Zero. And then right before the morph ends, I'm going to kill the other guy. And with my last second as Sub-Zero, I'm going to freeze him. And then I'm going to be out of time. So he's going to turn back into Shang Tsung. And then I'm going to morph into a different character and really quickly do their special move. Now, it was hard. I had to like practice all those steps, but I did it. And sure enough, it was weird. The game glitches out if you do that. At some point, I'm going to make a YouTube video about this, so I'll show you exactly what happens, although I'm sure it's already on YouTube, so you can find it. But the point is, when you do that, the person who's being killed, their sprite gets sort of corrupted if you freeze them as Sub-Zero and then do someone else's special move on them. They like turn into weird colors. And it just sort of looks like glitchy and weird. And that to me was like so cool. I like the fact that it was bright colors and there was this sort of discovered thing that is like you don't normally see it. It's like you have to sort of get somewhere special to see it. I just thought that was like the coolest thing. That just became my taste. Like now that from then on, I was like, that's what I want everything to be. I want everything to feel like you're in this sort of weird secret glitch thing that's like not the normal thing, but it looks different. And you're like, oh, now I'm in the like weird, bright, glitchy version of reality. I was like, I wish I could just live in that reality forever. So, and then the other thing too was like, I was never phenomenally good at fighting games. I was the kind of guy where like Mortal Kombat 2 would come out and I would get the strategy guide and I would like read the strategy guide. I was like a good student and I would like know all the special moves before my friends did. And so I would like beat up my friends because I knew how to do the special moves and I knew the game better. And if there was like a new mechanic where now you can like, there's a way to combo this or whatever, I would like know that stuff. And I would beat my friends before they knew it. And then by the time they learned all that stuff, they would then start to get better at me because like they had faster reflexes and they were like better at comboing. And they're like, the athletic part of playing the video game, they would like beat me on that. So I was always the guy where I was like, I could win when it was just about like reading comprehension of the game manual. And once you leave that behind and it's about like actual technique and like just being better at it or not, like that's when my buddies started to pull ahead. So this glitch thing, I was like, this is my realm, this is my special thing that I have. So it was important to me for that reason. At this point, I'm assuming everybody watching can sort of figure out why that glitchy, weird thing answers this question, right? I feel like you can see the whole thing, right? So at some point, I am going to make a YouTube video where I explain that. In the meantime, I think this is a pretty good stopping point. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. I love doing these Ask Me Anythings. You guys ask hysterical questions and the commentary is cool. You guys are the best. Thank you for supporting my channel. If you want to support me in other ways, you can become a YouTube member. That's where you like pay a monthly thing. And I make videos that only the members can see. And they're guaranteed to have their questions answered during Ask Me Anythings. And then also, if you want to buy gear, if you buy it from Perfect Circuit and use one of my affiliate links, I'll get a small commission. So I'll put my affiliate links in the video description. It doesn't matter what you buy. You could just use my affiliate link to go to perfectcircuit.com. And just the fact that you clicked on my link to get there means that once you're there, anything you buy, anything you put in your shopping cart, I'll actually get the commission on it. So if you're going to buy gear and you want to do that, you'll be supporting the channel too. But no matter what, thank you for watching my YouTube channel. Thank you for giving a fuck. I really appreciate it. I love doing these. I will see you again before too long. I just got to tread water for a second before I find this.